So Mortal Kombat 1 is something like 1 week away from its official release. That means that all the rumors and speculations will finally be over, and we will finally find out what exactly is going on in the story in this new timeline. There are some things that we already know regarding the story, some things that have been revealed through the official characters' bios, through the trailers, as well as some leaks online. But there are still some things that we are not 100% certain of, and I thought it would be fun, to make a video, with like last minute predictions, like last minute calls, and then maybe later revisit this video, and see like which ones of these predictions would turn out to be correct, or absolutely wrong, in any case, it's gonna be funny. So my first prediction would be is that I believe that Hanzo Hasashi is going to be the father of Bi-Han and Kuai Liang in this new timeline. And what I believe have happened is that in order to become the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei himself, Sub-Zero have killed his own father, Hanzo Hasashi, and eventually Kuai Liang, who is Scorpion in this new timeline, is going to find out about it, and he's going to want revenge. And we are going to get this classic Scorpion and Sub-Zero rivalry, Additionally, I believe that Hanzo Hasashi is going to return as Noob Saibot, and probably he will also want to have his revenge, and we will have like Scorpion on one hand, and Hanzo Hasashi on the other, and both of them will be after Sub-Zero, which will be interesting. And it's interesting, if Hanzo Hasashi is going to be Noob Saibot eventually, it's going to be like, a ghost from the past timeline, coming back, to haunt Sub-Zero, to haunt Bi-Han, so we will have like all these elements, from his past timeline, like Scorpion, Hanzo Hasashi, and Noob Saibot, kind of like, trying to get their revenge, on him. So yeah, this is like my first big prediction, regarding the story mode. Another big thing that I think is going to happen is that Geras and Chronica are going to be working together, and I think that Geras is going to betray Liu Kang. And I think that's the threat, the danger that Liu Kang couldn't have foreseen, according to his new bio, right? Because let's face it, like Onaga, his origins are from within the timeline, and Liu Kang is the master of all reality, and he could have easily foreseen Onaga, and first thing he would do would be like to neutralize him, so the threat, that he couldn't have foreseen must have its origins like from outside the timelines, from outside time and space. So 1 + 1, it's Geras and Chronica. And I'm going to go even crazier here, like having noticed a certain narrative, that the NRS is trying to push. I wouldn't be surprised if Geras and Chronica would merge together, and we would have like a gender-neutral, non-binary villain, in the end. Now, the next thing I'm calling is, I think Onaga is going to be Shao Kahn's, General Shao's father in this new timeline. And I think that's why Shao Kahn has, the horns, it's probably done in order to imply that he's like related to the Dragon King. And we see Onaga's army in the trailer, but what if it's General Shao, who's controlling Onaga's army, what if he inherited, the army from his father, and that's how he has won like all these great wars and battles, that Sindel is talking about. Next, I've heard that the devs have said that Havoc is going to be like another character in the beginning, and then he will become, like something will happen and he will become Havoc eventually, And I think that this character is going to be Dairu. Like, if you look into Dairu's story, something tragic, something serious happened, in his life, and he changed his view, and went against Seido's government, he started working with Darius. So in the same fashion, something is going to happen to Havoc, to Dairu of this new timeline, and he becomes Havoc, and he's going to go against Seido, basically, and it seems like they're kind of combining Dairu and Darius, storylines together, and giving them to Havoc, This is what I'm getting from his bio. So the next big prediction. I think that we all know by now that it's quite obvious that Chronica is going to be a Damashi, and that Shang Tsung is going to play Shujinko's role, like, and it's like parallel, like Onaga, who was using Shujinko, in like to do his bidding, in the same fashion, like Chronica is going to use Shang Tsung, to get what she wants, and imagine if she's after the Kamidogu, actually, that would be interesting, maybe she needs the Kamidogu, to get her powers back, and that's why she needs Shang Tsung, in order for him to help her, she's going to give him back his sorcery powers, and remember, Onaga gave Shujinko the ability to mimic other warriors' skills, right? In the same way, Chronica is going to give Shang Tsung, the ability to morph into other warriors, to mimic their powers, So the parallel is very clear, to be honest. But yeah, I think it would actually be interesting, if Chronica is after the Kamidogu, in this new story. Now, a smaller prediction. I think that Madame Bo is replacing Borai Cho. I think NRS gender swapped Borai Cho, unfortunately, because remember, Borai Cho used to teach Kung Lao and Liu Kang, and it seems like Madame Bo is teaching martial arts to Kung Lao and Raiden, and I really like, Madame Bo, she's a cool character, really funny character, and I would want to see her as a cameo fighter. But I wouldn't want her to replace Borai Cho, I really like Borai Cho as a character, I like that he looks different, I like his drunken style, I think it's really dope, and he's one of my mains in MKX, they did him really well there, and I would want to see the actual Borai Cho in this new game, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to happen. Alright, next, I think that the characters will somehow eventually figure out what happened, they will find out that Liu Kang has restarted the timeline, and changed their lives, and everything, and a lot of the characters, I predict, will be very pissed, like Shang Tsung, for example. And that could also be like the threat that Liu Kang couldn't have predicted, like if it's a general crisis event, rather than a specific villain, character like Onaga or Shao Kahn that he had to neutralize. I think it would be a lot more difficult to predict, a situation, or like the outcome, of the timeline. So maybe that could be it, maybe we don't get like a specific villain, I don't know, like what's gonna happen. And now the moment everybody's been waiting for, what about Onaga? There are some leaks that say that Onaga's return is going to be teased at the end of the story mode, and I believe that we are going to get him, in the expansion of the story, a year after the release of the original game. Onaga is on extremely high demand amongst the fans, and he's like a great commercial opportunity for the Warner Brothers Discovery and the NetherRealm Studios. I don't think they will give him to us that easily, I think they will use him as the biggest selling point for the MK1's Aftermath, if you will. The MK11 Aftermath expansion pack was a huge commercial success, and I bet that the NetherRealm Studios have already finished, the expansion for MK1, the story expansion for the MK1, because, these things take a lot of time, to write, to design, to program and everything, so like the product has to be finished by now, and I think like for the next 1 year or so they will be like finalizing it, like testing, polishing and everything, But yeah, if we're getting Onaga, I think we're going to get him in the expansion of the story for MK1. And since we are on the DLC subject, I would finally want to say that I think that Sarina will eventually end up being like fully playable, and we might even get characters like Shujinko, Suhao, maybe like as a cameo fighter or something, and maybe even Fujin. Fujin was like a huge success in MK11, and he was like on high demand ever since MKX, and I think that they might put him in this game too. You know, like these characters, like they might end up being like part of the expansion of the story, or maybe like part of some sort of combat pack or whatever, you know. And I also think that Sonya, Jax, and Kano will eventually end up being like part of either a combat pack, you know, or most likely like part of the story, you know, of the expansion of the story for MK1, because like, you know, these characters are like, you know, basic Mortal Kombat characters, you know, you must have like, you know, Sonya and Kano, right? So I think we will eventually get those characters too. So those were some of my like big predictions, you know, about the Mortal Kombat 1 story. Let me know what you think about all of this, you know. I think it's going to be funny to revisit this video after the game is released, you know, and see where I was wrong or right, you know. Most likely I'm going to be wrong, you know, but you never know, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.